resolutions to improve your health, exercise more consistently, or eat better, you came to the right place. Hi, I'm Stephanie Lovelace. Tonight I'm joined by physical therapist Katie Wolfley and certified dietitian nutritionist Noelle Citarella, who will be sharing easy ways to fit in fitness in your daily routine. Whether you're busy with work or caring for your family, tonight you'll learn actionable ways to make your resolutions stick, even when you're short on time. In 2021, a global consumer survey showed that the top 3 New Year's resolutions center on exercising, eating healthy, and losing weight. Unfortunately, most resolutions fail to stick. In 2019, Strava, an online fitness app, found that most people fall off their resolutions around January 19th. If you're looking to beat those odds, you're in luck. Tonight, we're going to provide strategies to keep you on track while improving your overall health and making progress towards your long-term goals. Most people think that finding time to exercise and eat right is hopeless. When caring for a young family, aging parents, and all of life's daily responsibilities, it can feel like there's not enough time in the day to prioritize yourself. There's a saying, most people underestimate what they can do in the long term and overestimate what they can do in the short term. Tonight, you're going to learn small changes that you can start today to move towards a healthier you in the future. Please put any questions in the comments section and we'll be sure to cover them in the live Q&A after the program. Let's get started. Joining me here is physical therapist Katie Wolfley, who's going to discuss the importance of forming healthy habits and share a basic routine designed to fit any lifestyle.
Hi everyone. So when it comes to setting new goals and making lasting changes in our lives, it's important for us to set realistic expectations. We would all love to set our goals and achieve them tomorrow, but we all know that that's not going to happen or how it works. So we need to think in the short term as well as the long term. So maybe you've heard the idea that sometimes it takes 21 days to make a new habit. Unfortunately, research shows that us humans need around 60 plus days to make a new habit. So we want to think of our health as a lifelong and not just in the immediate sense as we make these changes. So think of those baby steps, put one foot in front of the other, and then that'll get us to climb the mountain that we see in the distance. Okay? So building onto that, it's important for us to understand that change takes time, especially when we're talking about physiological changes within our bodies. Strength can take an average of 6 to 8 weeks to develop, as our bodies will make that change at a cellular level, but it only takes about a week or 2 of no activity to begin losing that strength. So if we can keep ourselves on track during those 6 to 8 weeks of strength building, then keep these things in mind. It takes about 2 weeks for you to feel different. It will take 4 weeks for you to notice that difference physically, and in 8 weeks, someone else will tell you that they see that difference. So let's talk about 3 strategies to help us keep on track. Number 1, we need to find an accountability buddy. Friends. Someone who shares a common goal will keep you on track through this journey as you're making those positive lifestyle changes. We all know it's so easy to fall off track, and with all those constant temptations around us, it's not easy. But when you have someone supporting you through it, it's much easier to keep ourselves positive and on track so that we can make those new habits stick. Strategy number 2. It's important for us to prioritize the type of exercise we choose to do. Strength training is by far the most effective way to make those positive changes in your life. Believe it or not, yes, it's better than cardio-only programs. And in fact, those compound movements where we fire more muscle groups at once allows us to accomplish more in less time. Plus, by working multiple muscle groups at once, we're going to increase that cardiac output from our heart, which will increase that cardio workout that you do. Trust me, strength building will get you huffing and puffing the same way that you do when you're riding a bike or a treadmill, but your muscles are also going to get strength and they will thank you later. Strategy number 3, we need to think about how to avoid those unsustainable methods. So most people will go too hard, too fast out of the starting gate and they'll have burnout. So if you're new to exercise, you shoot for 3 times a week for 30 minutes and you build on top of that. The program that we're going to talk about today will do just everything we need. 1, it's going to give us good compound strength training movements in key muscle groups for posture and function. Number 2, it's going to be achievable for new and not so new to fitness users. And it's something that you can easily do with that workout buddy to help us stay on track, that you can perform at the gym, at home, and you can do it in minimal space and it won't take up too much time.
So we've talked about forming healthy habits and strategies to help a routine stick. So what about some compound movements that could be done in about 20 to 30 minutes for those of us with super busy schedules?
Absolutely. So we've created a plan for you we're gonna work through exercises that are gonna tackle our upper body, our lower body, and some of our postural muscles, so getting the whole shebang. And we're gonna do them through one big cycle, and then we're gonna go through that 2 to 3 times. So today we're gonna show you it through it once. Each exercise is gonna be about a minute, and then you're gonna have 30 seconds rest, and then go through that exercise through the whole cycle, those 2 to 3 times, okay? So with these exercises, we are going to use a medicine ball and some light weights. You are more than welcome to find where you feel comfortable starting. So for some individuals, 1 pound weights might be perfect, or maybe no weights at all, depending on how you feel about your physical fitness, or maybe even if you have shoulder issues as we work through the upper body, maybe you start with no weights and then progress to adding them later on, okay? So our first exercise that we're gonna work through is going to tackle our lower body. This exercise is called a chop and lift. I'm gonna have Stephanie do it with me today, and we're gonna use a medicine ball. So taking the ball in our hands, we're gonna start hip width apart. We're gonna work into a little bit of a squat. So I want your hips to sit backwards, knees right over top of our ankles. And we're gonna take that ball starting at the outside of our legs. Perfect. So now that we're down in the squat, we're gonna bring that up and across towards your opposite ear, bringing it up as high as comfortable, and she's gonna pivot on this back heel so that she's rotating from her hip joints, not from her spine. From there, she's gonna bring it back down into that squat and down and across to the outside of that thigh. You're gonna repeat this for 30 seconds, and then we're going to repeat on the other side for the other 30 seconds. Fabulous. And if you're anybody who has shoulder issues, instead of going up and across fully, we're gonna come down, and then as we come up to standing, you're just gonna do a bicep curl and bring that ball into the chest. Perfect. And then back down to the outside of the leg again, and back up for that curl. Fabulous. Good. She'll feel really good. Your work here for your lower body is in the thighs and in those glutes, okay? Our next one is working through a rotational lunge. So we're gonna start with our feet together. We're gonna step out to the side and turn our foot out so that our feet become perpendicular. We're gonna get into whatever stance you're comfortable. If you can't get to a fully perpendicular position, that's okay. It can take a little bit shorter than that. Don't wanna hurt ourselves. We're gonna rotate the leg this way, and then we're gonna make our belly button turn to face that front leg. We're gonna have that weight in the hands possibly reach down towards the thigh. Perfect. And then we're gonna come back up feet together, and we're gonna alternate, switching directly over to going to the next leg. Perfect. Yep. Reach it down towards the knee, back up to center, and out and over to the other side here as well. Fabulous. The more we reach down, the more it's gonna engage those glutes. So working those bigger muscle groups, it's also gonna make you balance. So the faster you move, switching from one to the next is gonna throw in a little bit of balance work. So if you have any concerns about your balance, take it slower. Or if needed, you don't have to do this with any weight, but maybe you have a chair nearby too, so that as you go into that lunge, you have something to kind of stabilize yourself with. And maybe you do 30 seconds on one leg and switch to 30 seconds on the other.
Definitely helps with balance.
Right? And our last one here for the lower body is a forward lunge, but adding a little bit of twist so that we can work the core. So starting with your feet together, stepping forward just about a little bit more than a step length, and then taking your hands, ball, weight, whatever you got, and we're gonna turn towards the same side as that front leg. It's gonna work through our core, work through that front hip, and then bring you back to center, feet together. Good. With this one, I would do alternating. So you're gonna switch from the right leg to the left and keep repeating. And again, if you move quick, you're gonna challenge the balance, challenge that core a little bit more to keep you stable. So just go at whatever pace feels comfortable. This isn't a race. It's 1 total minute of exercise. And like we said before, it's gonna start working those big muscles. So you'll get cardio going. You're gonna get 30 seconds of rest after each of these exercises.
Awesome. Yep, definitely feeling it already.
Perfect. Next, we're gonna move into upper body. So we'll trade you. We're gonna grab 2 pound weights today. Nothing nuts. You wanna start light. If you work with light weights, it's gonna work into toning our muscles rather than that bulking up, which for most of us, sometimes that's what we want, right? So what we're gonna do for this first exercise is work a little bit of core and do a little bit of a cross punch. So Stephanie's gonna take her left hand. She's going to pivot to face the right while she punches across the chest. Perfect. Hand comes back to center. Repeat to the opposite side. So I'm just gonna have you cycle through this. As she's punching across, she's letting her palm face down to the ground with that rotational motion. And she's making sure to pivot on her back heel because that makes sure we're rotating from our hip joints, not from our spine. It keeps the rest of the body safe. If you're looking for a little upgrade, this is comfortable. Instead, you're gonna take a punch up and across your body. Good. So we get a little bit more of that overhead work. One thing I want you to keep in mind while you're doing this is just to make sure that your shoulders stay down away from your ears, yes, as you go, because we have that tendency to want to use that upper trap to go higher, but that can be uncomfortable for some of us, and that's actually helping to like train your posture to reduce upper trap use.
Yeah, there's always ways to modify, so.
Yes, absolutely. Next one that we're gonna do is a lunge with gold post arms. So if you thought you had a 45-degree line out in front of you, we're gonna step out onto that line to lunge. I'm gonna have your belly button try to face that same direction as your kneecap and your toe. And then our arms are gonna come up overhead like you're making a field goal sign, right? Our palms are facing each other, even if we're holding those weights. And then we're gonna bring them back down as we come back together. Alternate sides. So then going to the right, knee, toe, belly button, point in the same direction. Arms come up overhead and bring it back. We're working a lot of great muscles on those shoulders. You're again thinking nice long neck, shoulders down away from your ears as you're up here, so you're not scrunching them up towards your ear. We're gonna repeat this for that minute cycle, alternating. Next one, squat with a curl to an overhead press. Lots of words, break it down. Squat, feet hip width apart, sit the booty back, hands are just starting next to us at the ground. We're then going to stand up, make a bicep curl, so palms now face you, and then we're going to press overhead, palms facing away from you. Again, nice long neck. We're working through a little bit of those rotator cuffs as we're getting that turn in the hands this time. Then you're gonna bring them back down to that last position, so now palms are facing you, and then back down into that squat. So you're just moving through those same positions. So then up, curl, palms face you, press overhead, palms face away.
Nope.
They twist back in, good, and then they come back down. Perfect. Sometimes it just takes a couple of reps of getting used to how are my hands turning, but you'll get it. You're gonna repeat this 1 minute. This one will definitely get your heart rate going as you're gonna be working all of those big muscle groups through even the lower body as we're thinking about the upper body.
Definitely.
Right? Last portion, thinking about our posture and mobility. So we're actually gonna grab a chair here for this next one. You can throw those on the ground. And Steph's gonna take a seat here on the chair. You can do this without any weight as we're kind of thinking about that mobility as opposed to strength with this. We're gonna have our arms crossed across the chest. Stephanie's going to get into her best possible posture. So she's gonna sit up nice and tall, pulling up from her chest and then pulling in from her low back. Thinking about her core being in nice and tight, and she's gonna turn as far as she can over to her right. Good, keeping that good posture, back to center, and then over towards me. Good, keep repeating this for me. Sometimes I like to add in a little bit of a breathing cue. One, it keeps you on pace. Two, using your breath to help guide releasing some of those muscles to get more mobility out of it. So as she turns to the side, she's gonna do a nice deep breath out, hopefully get a little bit further, and then breathe in as you come back to center. With each of those, you can kind of feel that you kind of squeak out an extra inch as you turn.
For sure.
Right? For a lot of us, this upper portion of our spine is stiff, especially with turning. And when we don't have that mobility through here, we end up overusing our lower back and leading to further injuries down the line there. It's also very important for our shoulder joints in terms of just general shoulder health. Beautiful. Okay. Now we can drop the weights. Our last one here, our second last one, sorry, we're standing. We're gonna do a sideways lunge. So we're stepping out just a little bit wider than hip width. We're shifting all of our weight towards that lunging leg and sitting our butt backwards. With this, we're gonna have our hands shooting down towards or, kind of just framing that front leg. And then as we come back up to stand, you're gonna row. So you're gonna pull your hands in, elbows tight to your rib cage, thinking squeeze a pencil between the shoulder blades here, okay? Perfect. Stepping back out, arms go down, and then back up and pull in. Keep repeating this for me on the side. As we do this exercise, I want you to continually be thinking about that posture. So she should be thinking, my neck is up nice and tall. And as I go in, I'm not letting my neck go forward. I'm just kind of keeping it right over top of my spine. Beautiful. This one, 30 seconds to your right, 30 seconds to your left. Or if you really want to add in a challenge with even more of that balance, you alternate. Okay?
Awesome, yeah.
Fabulous. Then we have one more where we're going to use our wall. So for our next exercise, we're going to use a wall. So Steph, I'm going to have you turn and face. We're going to put our feet in a staggered stance. So one foot is forward, the other foot is not far behind. This isn't a lunge.
Like this?
Yeah, but actually let's start with that foot flat to the ground.
Flat, okay.
Perfect. So her hands are on the wall. She's going to keep her eyes facing straight forward, slide the hands up the wall as far as possible, and as she goes, she's letting this back heel lift so that she's protecting her low back. If she kept her feet glued to the floor, she's gonna feel too much arching in that lower spine, and we're focused on mobility through her upper back. So as she's raising up, she's getting increased extension through her upper body, and she's gonna think, drop my shoulders down away from my ears, yes. So we keep a nice long neck and we keep those upper traps relaxed, they're squishy, and all the work is coming from her mid-shoulder blades, which are those posture muscles that we wanna strengthen. So you slide up, pause at the top, and then slide all the way back down, foot comes back down to the floor, and repeat. So I perform these 30 seconds with your right foot forward, switch your feet, do the other 30 seconds with the other foot in front. Perfect. And that'll complete the posture section of exercises. So this is our entire cycle. You're gonna work through this for the 2 to 3 cycles, depending on how long it takes you to complete and what your goals are. So remember, if you're new to exercise or you don't typically work out at the gym, start with 2 cycles. See how that feels. Give yourself 24 to 48 hours to see what kind of soreness, appropriate soreness you get in your body, and then see what you can tackle as far as, was that easy? Cool. Make it a 30-minute cycle. If that was enough, keep it at that 20-minute cycle for those 3 days a week to really help you build through things, and that'll do wonders for you.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions about how we're performing these exercises, put them in the comment section for us and we'll address them during the live Q&A afterward.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Perfect. Thanks so much, Katie. That was a great routine. So we've covered healthy habits, strategies, and routines suitable for anyone looking to move better. But what about nutrition? Join us next to meet certified dietitian nutritionist Noelle Citarella, who's going to talk about just that. All right, now I'd like to welcome certified dietitian nutritionist Noelle Citarella to share her insights on the importance of meal prep, as well as why most people fail to hit those nutrition goals. Thanks so much for joining us, Noelle. Let's get started by giving viewers a little bit of background on your experience and what a registered dietitian actually does.
Well, first I'd like to start off by saying thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here again. I'm a registered dietitian, like you said, and I work in private practice. I've been in practice for 5 years, and I work for Buffalo Nutrition and Dietetics. I've been with them for about 4 years. So I work mainly one-on-one with my patients, and I help them make lifestyle and diet pattern modifications to help them meet their lifestyle goals. So part of that lifestyle and diet modification is that we're not working on this huge overhaul with a ton of goals all at once. I like to meet my patients right where they are and help them kind of identify some areas of opportunity that would really help them achieve their goals, and then kind of make a couple small, specific, measurable goals, and then set up a plan for them to help them achieve those goals.
Awesome. So that's super helpful to hear, because I know a lot of times people, they think nutritionist or dietitian and it's like the diet police. Like they're going to tell me all the things I'm doing wrong and what not to do, and it kind of gets a negative connotation.
Exactly. So we like to kind of focus on the positives and all of the things that you should be including. A lot of times I see patients struggling to meet their goals, and then when we sit down and kind of review what their diet pattern currently looks like, they might be falling short on adequate protein intake, or maybe they're trying to lose weight, so they're really mindful of fat in their diet pattern and they're over-restricting. So kind of making sure that they're eating enough quality protein and getting a really good variety of protein. And healthy fat is so important, so I like to make sure they're getting enough. So whether it's coming from nuts and seeds, olive oil, avocado, and then of course fatty fish, those omega-3s from fatty fish. And then the other piece is fiber. A lot of people are, very, very busy. I feel like we're in this kind of lifestyle where everybody is busy. I'm guilty of saying it sometimes too. But when you're relying on convenience and fast foods, fiber is typically lacking there. So all the fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains that provide fiber really help keep the gastrointestinal tract healthy and keep the immune system healthy, which can help lower inflammation and keep people feeling good overall.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm definitely guilty of that as well. Never making the time for myself and often going without and then making up for it and overcompensating later in the day, which we know is a major no-no. So,
And inadequate food intake is one piece of it, but I often see too, people are really skipping out on hydration. So they'll realize, oh my gosh, I'm going home from work and I haven't touched this water bottle I brought with me all day long. So that's another kind of like foundation piece that I like to work on with my patients, make sure they're getting adequate hydration in. There is a little bit of kind of a tip most people can use, and it's approximately half of your body weight in ounces is how much hydrating fluids you should be drinking. But if you have some kind of health condition, it might be important to ask a registered dietitian or maybe your healthcare provider exactly how much water you should be having.
Absolutely, makes total sense. So if I were to ask you what are 3 foods to keep you feeling full throughout the day, designed kind of for a busy lifestyle, what would you recommend?
So I like to kind of think about it in terms of the 3 important macronutrients. So if you're trying to feel satisfied, you really want to make sure that you have some kind of complex carbohydrate, so that fiber piece, and then pair that with either protein and or fat. So I'll give you some examples of like some snacks that might be really easy go-tos. Maybe the person doesn't have time for a meal, but they can easily, fit in a small snack. So one of my favorites, personally, I know it's all preference, but carrots and hummus, super easy. You can buy the baby carrots, they're just ready to eat. It's easy to eat a cup of carrots and get in a ton of fiber. It's very low calorie, and then your hummus will provide the healthy fat, especially if it's made with olive oil, and a little bit more complex carb from the legumes. Other easy, kind of balanced go-to snacks might be Greek yogurt with some fresh fruit. Raspberries are really high fiber, so that's a great one to add, or maybe a little bit of granola because it has whole grain. And then some other good go-tos might be like whole grain crackers with cheese, very shelf stable, like easy to bring with you, small, kind of fits in any bag.
Awesome. Okay, so we got the snacks down. What about kind of some grab-and-go meals you might suggest for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? If you're looking for something a little heartier, have a longer day, aren't going to even have time to stop and grab something, but want to make sure you're kind of sticking to that healthy routine.
I think planning ahead is definitely crucial, at least like the breakfast piece and probably lunch because most people are out, so if the breakfast is ready for you in the morning, it's easy for you to either make sure you wake up that, 15 minutes earlier to sit down and enjoy the breakfast. Be mindful, chew thoroughly and slowly. That allows your body to absorb and get all the nutrients from your food so you're not just in this mad dash. If you really have no time, pack it up, bring it with you, eat when you sit down and get where you're going. But I like frittatas a lot because you can make those ahead. So even if it's a Sunday, you make this delicious veggie frittata, you have it ready to go the next day. I'm going to share some recipes with you guys that you can share with the viewers after.
Awesome.
And the frittata I really like is a salmon and asparagus frittata. So you get some healthy omega-3 fats, some fiber from your asparagus, and the eggs provide quality protein. And you can even pair that with fruit so you get some more complex carbohydrates if you want to. As far as lunches go, I'm a big fan of the bowl. So I think most people are familiar with like Chipotle or Core Life Eatery. You can easily make your own bowl at home. I'll provide kind of like the framework of how to build a healthy bowl. But in general, what you want to do is choose your base, like some kind of leafy greens or vegetables of some sort, whether they're cooked vegetables, because you can do a warm bowl, or if it's a salad bowl, you can do cold. And then your protein, so whether it's legumes, some kind of canned beans or frozen, because those are super easy, or maybe you have some pre-cooked chicken you can throw in there. And then make sure it's colorful and your healthy fat. So maybe you top it with some pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, use olive oil, definitely. Maybe some avocado. There's endless options. Some good go-tos might be, I don't know if you've heard of egg roll in a bowl. Have you ever tried that recipe?
Yeah.
That's an easy one, and that's a warm one for winter. And then like a taco salad, that's always a go-to for me.
Classic for sure.
And dinners, I really like soups. They can be extremely easy to throw together. Bone broth is a little bit higher in protein and they're typically very low sodium. So sometimes, people might be managing high blood pressure and be really mindful of sodium. Sodium can be pro-inflammatory, so even patients with inflammatory diseases might want to limit sodium. And most bone broths are about 5% daily value of salt, which is very low.
Yeah.
So you get a little protein, low sodium, and then canned beans are simple. You just rinse and dump into your pot, and you have some complex carbohydrate and protein. Options would be, onion, garlic, fire roasted tomatoes, which again, you can open a can and put those in there. And you have a balanced, healthy soup. You can optionally add in like maybe some sausage or rotisserie chicken, but that would be, and a pre-washed, pre-cut kale. That's easy. Those hearty greens really hold up in a soup much better and don't turn into mush, so that's my go-to. And you have dinner, and usually those are things you can batch cook. You can even freeze, half of the leftovers and have it ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. Getting hungry as you're talking about it. So what about some specific items that store well and aren't super complicated to prepare in advance so that people can, they do that while they have the time and then get out the door quickly and know that they have the plan for the day?
So I think nuts and seeds are probably the number one go-to. Super shelf stable, they don't require refrigeration, and it's something you can easily throw in your bag or leave some in the car if you feel like you're kind of on the go and you need to have a snack in there because you might forget to pack a snack. That's easy to leave in the car. And then beyond that, again, like canned goods are very shelf stable, easy to add to many different dishes. So I like legumes, all different kinds, white beans, black beans, they're all equally fiber and protein containing. The fire roasted tomatoes, that's just another option that you can add to things. Frozen shouldn't get overlooked either. So things are usually flash frozen right after they're harvested, so they're kind of locking in the nutrients there. So you can have mixed variety of frozen vegetables on hand at any time. You can even buy like the pre-cooked and pre-cut frozen chicken breasts. So if you're really pressed for time, those defrost really fast. You could use them in salads or stir fries, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, awesome. So what else outside of the food and the snacks and things that we all are trying to be mindful of on any given day? What else would you suggest to help people make lasting changes within their lifestyle?
I think, looking at the whole person and kind of helping them identify what area might they benefit from the most. For example, some people really get poor quality sleep. And if you're running, your whole day feeling tired, maybe stress levels are higher because you're tired, you're not thinking clearly, that's probably going to lead to poor food choices too. So tackling sleep is really important. Getting quality sleep might even include timing of meals, so trying not to eat too close to bedtime. Sleep is when we have our most restorative reparative processes in the body happening. So if we eat too close to when those are supposed to be happening, we are really focused on digestion and absorption of nutrients instead. So it's kind of a technical term, but autophagy is happening when we're sleeping. So it's like programmed cell death, cleanup of damaged tissue. So again, people with inflammation or maybe an injury really want that quality sleep. So timing of meals can help. A cool, dark space really helps. And making sure you get your circadian cycle on track, which might include getting outside in the morning, getting sunlight exposure, just so that your internal clocks can get the message. Even on cloudy days, we think it's dreary, but there's still photons from the sun getting into our eyes and telling our brain that it's daytime, and kind of get those circadian clocks back on track. Physical activity, I know you guys already covered, but that's definitely huge. That can also improve sleep quality. It can really help improve mood, boost brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is very important for neurodegenerative diseases, and that's kind of my area of expertise. So I always recommend make sure you're doing physical activity. If you have physical limitations or barriers to that, meet with a physical therapist. They can definitely help you.
Yeah, we know a few of those, right?
Yep.
And then water, I know you touched on the hydration piece, but just making sure that we're working that in throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Not forgetting about it.
Yep. And the other piece to that too is alcohol is very dehydrating. So even if you're just having a few drinks, that's very dehydrating. So really trying to limit like the frequency and how much you're having it. A lot of people ask me about coffee. They want to know, is coffee, dehydrating me? Is it just like completely throwing all my efforts off? And it isn't. It does kind of increase diuresis, which is you urinating a little more frequently. But if you are limiting your coffee intake, again, for most people, it's like 1 to 2 cups a day isn't going to make you dehydrated. It's still okay to include it. I just really recommend try to get it in the morning so you aren't interfering with that sleep quality.
Yeah, definitely some good takeaways there. People need that caffeine fix throughout the day, just noting, when it makes sense and when it might actually hinder those other important key parts that we've talked about. So I know I've learned quite a bit. I'm looking forward to the recipes that Noelle's going to provide, so you can look for those in the white paper that we'll be providing after the program. Thanks so much, Noelle.
Thank you for having me.
So as you work your way through January, you might be frustrated with the lack of progress or just finding the time to focus on your health. So it's important to remember that change does take consistent and intentional effort. The bright side, Establishing a routine will make it much easier and will help you to begin to see those changes quicker. So remember, you'll feel different in 2 weeks. You'll notice a physical difference in 4, and others will start to see that same difference in 8. So whether you're struggling to find the time or just not sure where to start, hopefully you took away some actionable pointers to prioritize your health and fitness in the year ahead. Coming up, we will have our live Q&A, so be sure to drop your questions in the comments. On behalf of Buffalo Rehab Group, thank you for joining us. All right, so we are now going to segue into our live Q&A with Katie and Noelle. The first question for you, Katie, is from Georgia. Are the exercises we learned tonight safe for diastasis recti?
Yes, with any and all the exercises that we did today, I would just recommend that you're very conscientious about how you're moving. So they're all safe in terms of none of them are going to make anything worse. Be conscious of what weight you're using. Obviously, if we have an issue with strength in the core, we don't want it to be too heavy because that's going to kind of, show that area a little bit more. We want to work on that proper stability. So when you're using your weights, start light. And whenever you're doing anything like maybe the lunges where we're doing the turn towards your legs, I just want you to be very conscious about kind of keeping your core moving together as one piece. And that's actually where you're going to focus on building that core strength. So it should actually be helpful in that kind of way.
Awesome. So this is probably another segue from there, but how can you modify the exercises that we showed tonight if you're dealing with any sort of back issues or other pain pre-existing before exercising?
Yeah, I would just be, again, conscious of how you move. So if you know that with lunges, if you take a really big step that's going to arch your back and you know that's a position that's uncomfortable for your spine, take a shorter step. Just move a little bit less. So instead of going through a fuller range of motion, take a little bit shorter. And always just go to your tolerance level. So if it's anything like the lunge out to the side with the row, don't squat down quite as far. Move slowly. Maybe start without weights and then add in weights later, knowing that you're comfortable doing those moves. But if you need more modifications than that, then always find one of our providers. And obviously, maybe we need to go through a little bit of treatment and start you off a little bit lower and kind of manage to do that.
Awesome. And we can always add weight and progress from there, but starting light is
Absolutely.
probably the safest way to go about it.
Yep.
Awesome. Can you explain how we should be feeling when we're exercising so we know whether or not we're doing it correctly and not going to strain or hurt ourselves?
Yes. So when we're doing an exercise, we want to feel like we're getting a little bit of work. So work shouldn't create pain. I think that's the important thing to point out. It's right. Shouldn't feel like pain. I don't want you pushing anything into pain. If you have a pre-existing condition where you know when you do exercises, you're gonna feel it a little bit, I always say kind of meet the edge of discomfort. So move to a point where you're starting to feel a little bit, but when you're done doing the exercise, you want it to feel no worse, or maybe like, ooh, my muscles are tired. And if we're doing an appropriate exercise program, building strength does create soreness, but that should only last you for like 24 to 48 hours. That's like an appropriate length of time. If you're feeling it longer than that, you might have done too much. Either do less reps, do less weight if you're working on that. Always kind of find your midpoint of where things are comfortable. A little bit of tension or stretch while you're doing things is appropriate, but again, as long as it's not creating pain.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know from experience that day 2 is usually the most painful.
Yes,
so
me too.
Hold on through that and you should be fine. Can you show the last exercise so that we could see how your footing was against the wall, or just demonstrate it maybe with your hands?
Yes, yeah, I might not be able to let you guys see my feet, but if I were, I'm going to face you. If I were going up my wall, my feet are split so that one is very close to the edge of the wall, the other is not far behind, and I'm shifting my weight so that even if I am sliding up, my body is coming forward towards that wall, on and off. So in terms of my back foot, I'm just letting that heel lift up as I go forward. So my chest should move towards the wall and away from the wall with each repetition. I hope that helps clarify what's happening down there.
Definitely makes sense. Okay. The next one is, can you exercise if you're on oxygen? And is there anything you should avoid or approach differently?
If you're using oxygen, I would just be trying things at a little bit of a lower level. So maybe starting with some of those last exercises we did, like the seated posture exercise where you're working on kind of those turns. With all the exercises, take lots of rest breaks. Give yourself space in between to let your breathing rate come back down to normal. And that might help you kind of feel like you're challenging that cardio rate a little bit to a good level. It should never feel strenuous or like you're increasing pressure in the chest. That's too much. So always find a pace that feels comfortable for you. If there's ways to modify to do the exercise like sitting, that would be best. And then work your way up into standing, because when you're standing, you're using larger muscle groups that will use more oxygen, and that will increase the demand on your oxygen intake.
Awesome. Now, are these exercises something that we can use before a more strenuous workout? So these stretches that we went through, would it be kind of a good warm-up for a more intense workout?
Sure, absolutely. Because all the ones that we showed you today should be working on creating a little bit of stability. If you noticed, our feet never really left the floor, so they're low impact. So if you are somebody who wants to work into impact training, maybe you're working towards running, then absolutely these could be like a little bit of a warm-up, maybe if you are a runner, before you go out and do a run, and you've got some of those muscles kind of cued in and ready to work for your big workout.
Yeah, absolutely. Always recommend a good warm-up and cool down.
Yes.
I have an injured hamstring, so even walking can be painful. Are these exercises okay in my case?
These should be okay with things like the lunges. Take those shorter strides. Always find what feels good to you. So obviously if I'm in a lunge position and I'm going really far into it with that like row, that's going to put a lot of tension on the hamstring. So always kind of proceed with caution, see how you feel, never push it into pain. And depending on how acute that strain is, if it was, 2-3 weeks ago versus this was like 4 months ago, then the demand and what you should feel should be a little bit different. With that acute strain, it's probably a little bit more painful. Definitely don't push it into pain. If it's been a while and you're kind of ready to start doing more, then again, meet that edge of discomfort, come right off of it. It should be more sore afterwards, except for maybe 24 hours. But if it's still a problem area for you, then maybe PT is something that you might want to look into to fully rehab it so it's not something that's reoccurring. And especially if it is reoccurring, definitely get it checked out.
Definitely want to avoid any further pain or injury before you're kind of beyond that threshold. Yes. And then lastly, Katie, I have an injured hamstring. That was one we just did. Sorry about that. I think that might have been it for the fitness. Is there any just key takeaways you want to note for the audience in terms of these exercises and just fitting fitness into your daily routine?
I think so. It's a great idea to make this approach, take all of these exercises, work them through, like we said, for those 2 to 3 cycles to get yourself through a 20, 30-minute workout. For some of us, life is so busy that maybe even your thought of 20 to 30 minutes is going to take out so much of my day that I could be doing other things with. Do one cycle through. Don't use weights. Just get your heart rate up. Start with those little bits where it's feeling like, you know what? I took some time out of my day to do something for me, to work on my health and my fitness. That's a huge step. Make that happen 3 times a week, and then you're going to feel like, you know what? Maybe I can do a full 30-minute thing. And that feel-good feeling will stick with you to help you keep building it. And that's really the whole idea of this whole thing, is just get yourself started. The more you put that effort in to just build on it each time, you're going to find that it's much easier to stick to and feel like it's an actual life change as opposed to, just something I'm starting new doing this year,
Yeah, something's always better than nothing, right?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks so much. We are going to switch gears to nutrition. Noelle, the first question we have is drinking tea okay? And same question about coffee, early in the day versus late, and any limitation on intake.
Drinking tea is definitely okay. I would say if you're looking at it for something as a hydrating beverage, just go for caffeine-free. And then kind of the rules around caffeine and coffee and caffeinated tea, just try not to drink them past like 12 o'clock or 1 p.m.
Okay,
Otherwise interferes with sleep.
That late afternoon espresso shot is not going to do you any favors when it's time for bedtime. Right. I have a big sweet tooth. What can I eat without sacrificing my diet?
That's a big question. I would say there's a couple things you can do. One is really focus on portion control. You don't necessarily have to cut out specific food groups or foods. You can still enjoy all your favorite food. Just try to, portion it out first, put away the rest so it's not easy access to get a little extra, and enjoy the food that you love. But other recommendations, maybe it's a bowl of raspberries with Greek yogurt. Maybe it's vanilla yogurt. So you have some fiber, you have some protein to satisfy you, and it's still sweet. Maybe some herbal tea, like some fruit-flavored herbal teas. Those are sweet and can satisfy a sweet tooth.
Awesome. Yeah, moderation is key for sure. How often should I eat throughout the day?
That's going to vary for everybody, but I would say the general rule of thumb is you want to try to eat something about every 3 to 4 hours. If you're going more than 4 hours between meals, you're giving your body a chance to get low blood sugar, which isn't ideal because then you're going to feel tired, maybe moody. Maybe you're not able to focus on work because you're thinking about what am I going to eat? I'm starving. Or some people, they get other symptoms like headaches and they're like, why do I have this migraine? Oh yeah, I haven't eaten in about 5 hours.
And I know some people don't make the time in the morning necessarily for breakfast, and then they think, later in the day they can make up for all those calories they didn't have, and that's definitely not the way to go, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then lastly, what are the best foods to eat or diet to follow to regulate blood sugar?
So for regulating blood sugar, like I said, you definitely want to try to eat every 3 to 4 hours. So keeping it stable is also important. But to prevent the spikes that some people might be talking about, like if you're managing diabetes and maybe you have some insulin insensitivity, you want to try to aim for more of like the complex carbohydrates, which do include all of your non-starchy vegetables, but anything really that's high fiber, so like your legumes, your whole grains. Adequate protein is really important, and then your healthy fats, because all of that will help you digest a little bit slower and prevent those spikes in blood sugar.
Awesome. All right, well, that is a wrap for our Fit and Fitness exercise class. Thanks to Katie and Noelle for all of their expertise. And if you have any other further questions, feel free to reach out to us